I've used it in a lot of different ways over the past 2 years, but the part that I have found that has been the most impactful recently for this last school year was I now teach a self-determination class at a high school level. So I have students in there from 8th grade through 12th grade to students who have stayed on through to learn some transition skills too. And with self-determination, I use the Interoception Curriculum really as my basis to help guide the students learning what makes them feel comfortable, uncomfortable. Then we use the experiments to be able to determine what worked for them, what didn't work for them, which led to lots of conversations about what options can we try, what works, what doesn't work, which led to actually creating a self-determination plan for the students, written, that turned into a Google Doc, because when it's a Google Doc, you can share it with whoever you want, even if you're not in the room with the teacher. So one, it was so much fun. It set the tone for the whole school year. It became a place that was the students' safe place where they felt comfortable. We all had the relationship with each other, and they had the relationship with me, that we could really dive deep into things. And as with everything, the Interoceptive Curriculum, the students very much learned that every answer, there is no right or wrong. It's just, it is, because it's your body and it's your own experience, which they never heard before. A lot of them have spent their life being told, no, that's not true, or that's not your experience, or things like that. So that took them a little bit to feel comfortable to do that. But also, I really hammered home that you're able to say no to any activity in my classroom. No questions asked, but if you'd like to tell me why, since that's part of self-advocacy, because then maybe we can figure out a different way, a modification, an accommodation, or something you'd rather do, that would be great, but it was not necessary. And it was really fun to see students start to use that in the beginning, and they did say no a lot, and they passed on experiments, and now, okay, then we'll just move to the next person or whatever. But by the end, students who did not participate in classes a lot, 100% participating, laughing, joking, and obviously they felt comfortable with each other that way. This summer, I did a really deep dive into the history of disability and disability pride, both for my job and learning about my own family. And I have really realized part of disability pride is really understanding how can you accept your disability and understand what goes with that. If you don't know that your strengths, what makes you feel comfortable about it, what makes you feel uncomfortable about it, and the areas that you want support in, which matches what we've been doing in that class. But if you don't have all those pieces, you can't be your own best self advocate. And once a student graduates from high school, they have to become their own advocate. If you are in college, you have to do that yourself. Your parent is not able to do that anymore. And with my reading, it said that this is a stat from 2015 that 98% of students with disabilities with an IEP have accommodations in high school. But in college, it's only 24% of students who receive accommodations. And when I step back and think about that, it really goes back to everything that we're working on, is that self-advocacy and knowing why you need them. If you don't understand your disability and why these supports might make you feel good and powerful and yourself, then you will never know to ask for them. And also being very, happy with yourself, so you feel comfortable asking for what you need. But that number was a huge, very much surprised me that that was the case, because every student that graduates from high school gets a packet with them to take to high school, and somewhere there's something's happening in between there. So that is one of the things I want to do with that self-determination class. And part of that too, now that we've done a lot of the interoceptive work this year and we've completed the curriculum with them, the next step this year is going to be really understanding your IEP. So a student can take a deep dive into their IEP. What these accommodations that we've talked about, the things you want, these can be put in here. You can be in charge of your goals. What is that next step in life that you're looking for? And if you now know your strengths and what you really like, that should be a much easier thing than just filling out like a transition check, check, check kind of box. And then hopefully part of that will be leading their own IEPs too, so that they'll feel confident being able to do that with people outside of their support system at school. And we also made sure, well, I made sure since I was teaching the class, to use a lot of real life examples with the students, related onto how our bodies would feel. So anytime something came up in my own life that just happened to unfold in the class, I shared everything with them. So it kind of put us not on a teacher student level, but on a more, there was no power between us. So they could see. And one day I came in like super flustered, because I was actually leaving to go pick up like a big name speaker person, and I was so nervous and I made them sure they knew that like that was not my cup of tea. I'm nervous talking to new people, but I messed up so many times in the session. Like I'm writing things on the board, I spelled it wrong, I wrote the wrong. So we were able to talk about it. They could literally see me that way, but that really hit it home for them. So we've done that multiple times, and sometimes students would do things intentionally to make me feel that way, and then we laugh about it and they would say they were doing that, right? So I think overall it made them feel very comfortable, but the plans that come out of it were extraordinary because we did things in the beginning of the year and I had them start them. And how it worked was we did what they liked, what they found they felt comfortable with, and they literally made a list of those things that came directly from the curriculum. But then that merged into a statement that says, when I feel blank, I would like you to. So you meaning the staff, so that they would have something that they practiced, they felt good about, they experienced with me, that if they didn't want, they wouldn't, they didn't want to, they didn't feel comfortable, they didn't have the mouth words to share at the time, we had a written plan so that the teachers already knew those things. So like one student said, when I feel preoccupied, and that was his own word, he just graduated. He's not in my class anymore. I miss him very much. And he was so good with words like that. And he meant distracted, but I said, that's the most affirming word I've heard, preoccupied. That's wonderful. And that was something that happened to him. And he said things like, I would like you to make the work easier for me. I would let you to let me talk about what I want to talk about for a minute, and give me a break or whatever. But in the beginning, it would be just like, leave me alone or things like that. But they were not my words by the end. It was 100% student language. And I think that was really powerful for teachers to be able to see that it wasn't me saying this kid needs this, it was the student asking for it for themselves. But the majority of the students would not go up to a teacher at this point yet and ask for those things. So that also made it, I wanted to do it so it's a Google Doc and all the results of our curriculum were in there, because that will go with them. So if they leave here and get a job, that is their document. It can go with them. Like I really gave them, I was hoping that's like their gift, right? We don't go with them. Our supports don't go with them. Our visuals maybe could go with them, but that's theirs and they can take ownership of it. And it was very well received by the teachers. It was not that, right? That's a hard thing because kids don't know what they don't need or what they need. Kids don't know what they need until they experience it, but there's not time to do that a lot of times just in the regular curriculum or whatever. So I took ownership of that and gave that to the teachers for them to be able to have with the students. Two things, I think. At the high school level, the students absolutely know their bodies better. And what we also, part of that group, we used the experiments to figure out what made us feel comfortable or uncomfortable, but also how they impacted our energy levels, because I made sure that they know and that every staff member knows that regulated means that your energy level matches the activity that you want to do and not calm, which is everybody in school thinks that. And so we really I made sure the students knew that, and we would experiment with those things and do lots of different activities related to that using the interoceptive activities. Those activities that we figured out that made their energy level go up and down related with those activities were very easy to transfer to the classroom. So if a student felt sleepy, they would have activities to do with that. and the teachers were very happy with all of the supports that they were getting in the classroom. And the other one I really think, and this happened more at lower school as opposed to high school because we have more staff members to support students, as I was very intentional, is when I was introducing the interceptive curriculum and using it as more of a tier 2 intervention model, that I had somebody else with me that was not an OT using this, who worked with the students on a daily basis of our students that were really struggling with self-regulation in the classroom. So I had the person that supports that, and she was my assistant in the class. So she learned, I taught her the curriculum as the students learned it. So now that takes that off my plate this year because she already has all those skills and doesn't need me to do it. So that was very intentional on my part because there's never enough time in the day to do this. So every time I run a group like that, I try to include a staff member who is not familiar with it and would have the role to be able to support that, either in the classroom or in a tiered model of support. Doing all of these activities with the students and learning about neurodiversity and teaching students about strength-based, and that we support our strengths first, because then we find ways to access things to help us with the things that are challenges, made me stop and think and learn about myself. I've been learning about myself right along with all the students, and I have a really good sense of who I am now, and it has made me happy with that person, but it also let me know that it's okay to ask for help and to really look at what am I good at and what am I not, that I've felt almost, embarrassed about all along. I'm not a good organizer, right? But I have big ideas and love to share them. And so with my OT team, we have finally gotten to the place this year that we've been together long enough that we know what our strengths are. And this year I'm the lead OT. I'm the one that's there every day. And then there's 2 other OTs that are there that we share. We delegated beautifully this year. So one person's really good at making the room look really great. The other OT is an amazing scheduler, which we all know is the least favorite part of the whole school year. I got it all set, handed her hands. She did it all for me. So that left me do all the big ideas, getting everything set up, getting the stuff in the classrooms. And it has made my quality of my job that much better. And it costs not a penny more. It's less time. And everybody was so happy, like doing what they're like, the job that they like, right? So that's my thing this year too, of the school year, is really, own up to what you want help with, because that's somebody else's strength. And if you do what you like in your strength, it all works out. I say that this really literally changed my life, but it literally changed my life. Like, I just finished teaching that class at Misericordia this week with that. Like, that was the best experience I've ever had. Somebody paid me to info dump on my passions, right? Like, it was like absolute, like that was my perfect. But not only that, that you learn so much from the other students. I came into this school year with a list of things I didn't think to do that I'm so excited to put into place in school, right? So that was exciting, like checking off all my life goals, and it's all because of this. And I don't know, it's made me so much happier. And my kids have figured out, my own kids have figured out who they are through some of this too. I can't say enough about putting that and neurodiversity together. I've been noticing about my own body, and I've definitely have let go a little bit and unmasked more at school than I ever have. And but then I get really excited about the ideas, and it really comes out. So I'm like this at school, and I've noticed myself actually being like hyper, that I have to calm myself down. And I haven't felt that at my job before, but that shows me how much I like it and how exciting. But normally people ask the question, and it's what I'm saying helps them. So, I get to talk about what I enjoy. I think it's time. I mean, it's time to learn the curriculum, and then it's time to fit in your day. And it made me be really smart about my scheduling, so that I could do scheduling in a different way, so that I could fit that in and add that extra interception group. But that barrier then made it easier, because now I'm pulled less to help with a certain student because other people already have the tools in their hand. And isn't that the whole part of our job as an OT in the school system, is to keep kids out of special education? And so that has helped with some of our students in that way, or students that I might not normally have interaction with, but I've been able to pass that along to them. Our speech team has embraced me 100% with these ideas. And it has been a beautiful collaboration because of all the visuals that come with the tool, match what we're already using. And then they've helped me to put them on students' AAC devices, or sometimes to change the language a little bit more, because some of my students were not quite at the place where they really were getting hot and cold and things like that. So we were able to take other visuals that match what's on their AAC and change it a little bit to comfortable, uncomfortable, and distinguish the difference between I like it and it's comfortable and things like that. And really helped me to problem solve that. And now we all support each other with it. I'm still the main person who does it, but I have support from all of them. And they carry it over in their sessions. And the same thing has happened with our EC teacher, would come into my sessions, and then she sees the student more often than I do at our K1 level, and she's incorporating that into all of her sessions. And now the students also have toolboxes from her in their classroom this year, starting the year out, and we're only on the first week. So it really has been a wraparound in our lower school. Lots of hands are in the pot with it now. This is a great question, because a couple years ago, I was in the place, this is year 23 for me of being a pediatric OT, and I've been in this particular school for 14 years now. This is my 14th year starting. And I got to the place, I'm SIP certified, I have all the sensory training. I've done everything that you can think to do as a pediatric OT. And I was starting to feel like, not necessarily in a rut, but I wasn't effective. And it was really impacting how I thought about my job. I love my job and everything I did, but I didn't feel like I was doing as much as I could for the students in the classrooms. And it really, I actually started to get annoyed with like handing out a bumpy seat, a fidget or whatever, because I knew people were asking for it, but it wasn't really making a difference. And I thought, why am I, like, why am I even bothering with that part at this point? It's not changing anything. What can I do? And then I stumbled upon the interoceptive curriculum and all the pieces within it, how it goes with trauma and neurodiversity. And that's the end of the story, because it was what I've been missing. And I tell every OT that's in that same, it's that missing link of how do we get to those tools? These are all the steps to get you there. And it really has been that. It has filled that need for me. And it also, I know when I read like boards of other school OTs, how burnout everybody's getting at this point, because our caseloads are high, our student population after COVID and maybe just developmentally how preschools are has drastically changed in just the 14 years that I've been at school. It's not just straight fine motor anymore. And this fills that need. And it also made my job exciting again. This is so exciting, and it's something new to learn, and it's renewed my passion for what I do and has changed every aspect of what I do, and with my own family. And when you get excited about those things, it can't help but ripple through, right?
Yeah.
And arm yourself with the research, because then you can back yourself up too.